evening, Warriors, and welcome into the greatest edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host and the happiest man alive, other than maybe Mike Greenberg, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, it's Robert Hagan. It's the muted Robert Hagan.
There
he is.
It's mind going everywhere kind of day to day. I know I don't want to talk politics, but I'm hoping Asotin County and the Clarkson residents get out and voted today. The bond is on the issue. We got about an hour before the polling places close, so hopefully they've got them all turned in. Hopefully we could be saying this time next week we're getting a new high school, new stuff.
Very good. It's very needed over there.
So sure. Yeah, excited for that. Been talking with a lot of people today and this afternoon about things going on. So can't wait to hopefully say big yes. Let's do this and do that. But I enjoyed my afternoon. I had a afternoon of where I basically tested, so I got to listen to you most of the afternoon. Worked extremely hard.
Yeah, it was a very extremely hard day. We'll talk about that in the second hour, but I that's why we are an hour late. I was calling Lewiston Senior Day as they took on Lakeland. They were able to get 2 victories and made me scramble my butt off to start that second game, where they went from fixing the field to starting the game in a ridiculously rapid pace, and I was far from ready for it. We'll talk all about it. It's not, I don't care about Tears of the Kingdom Day. You're not going to ruin my mood, Robert. You're not. It's not going to happen. All right. Some housekeeping for you before we get it all to the craziness. Obviously, with all the baseball stuff going on, May is going to get interesting for this show. So we've gotten through all of the high school stuff for the most part. And now here is what May is going to look like, and everything will be TBD. But next week, looks like everything will be to normal. We've got no baseball anywhere.
Hopefully.
Okay, so next week, 6 p.m., we'll be in studio. Everything will go great. May 9th, 2 weeks from now, I won't be here. So I will do my best to remote in. Lewiston will be in their second day of their regional tournament. There's a good chance that I will be in the Coeur d'Alene area. Though the games start at 4, so if they get done in time, I can find a place and try to remote in, but I won't be in a fantastic place to do the show. So we will make that work as possible. The next week, who knows? It's the opening round for the NAIA, and I am calling games there. If they do night games as they did last year, we might just have to move the show to something else or not have the show. Robert is also unavailable that week. Then back to normal, and then the end of May, as always, most likely no show because the World Series consumes our lives over here in Lewiston, Idaho for the NAIA. Robert and I basically live at Harris Field for a week and a half. So most likely at the end of May, we will take 1 week off from the show.
Yeah, and you know what's really cool about that is you and I talked about it last year, how we went from 4 or 5 years ago when we used to just spend Mondays, Memorial Day Monday at Harris Field all day long, watch baseball, to now where you and I basically could probably get a cot, a tent, and a pillow, and a sleeping bag, and stay there.
I was there for every single game last year. I covered all but 2 for the radio or the newspaper, and then I just stuck around and watched the 2 games I wasn't covering.
I think I worked 9 of the games, but I stuck around for a few of the others. So
some other housekeeping stuff. We're 27 followers away now from 700, so we're still looking for suggestions. Fight night is this Saturday, so then it is safe from then on to figure out when we're going to train with these guys once we get them out of fight mode. So we will try to get the 600 goal finally put in. I need to get this done quick, Robert. I'm telling you right now, I have that PBA regional in July. Whatever they do to me, I need time to heal. That's all I'm asking. Also, if you joined us last week, or if you didn't and you haven't heard the news, Don Walden, the Lewiston sports editor and one of my mentors, passed away week from Saturday. Some really cool stuff. The Associated Press Sports Editors Organization, something Don was really passionate about and really got into. They had a cool little article and they honored him, and they're also putting a what they're calling a Don Walden Leadership Grant, which would be $1,000 annual prize, selected to a sports editor and a small circulation publication, excuse me, something Don was very passionate about.
Mhm.
Again, it was very tough to see that news and go through that last week, and obviously the hearts and thoughts are still out there with his family and friends. I know the Tribune's going through a ton right now, missing his presence for sure. And if you want to donate to his GoFundMe to help his family through all of this, we do have a link on our Facebook page on the R&R Sports Report. So
Mhm.
if you can and you're willing, please do so. It'd be greatly appreciated. All right, time to get down to the fun of the show. We are an hour late, but we still have all the energy. We're ready to go. It's going to be a jam-packed 2 hours. The
And
NFL.
I was to say we're starting with the MLB, right? We're starting with baseball.
Who? Once the Yankees remember how to hit, I'll talk to you about baseball again. It could be a little bit. But the NFL draft is 2 days away. Now, we are not doing our live stream as we've done the last couple of years. Work is getting in the way of that. I do know Eric and Harry are most likely planning on bringing back their show and live streaming. And if things work out for me, I might hop in there for a little bit and join them there as well. And if Eric or Harry are listening right now, they can plug and link and whatever they want to do to that stuff. They joined us last year and we kind of did a joint thing. So they will have you covered if you want to sit in with a couple of guys talking about all of the picks. We'll do our mock draft here shortly. As Robert mentioned, of course, baseball is starting to heat up here as we get into the summer. We'll talk about that. Yes, we will talk a little NBA and a little NHL. We'll get that in there as well. Sports related draft comes from Denny Grubb this week. Again, we're very excited to go see the fights this Saturday, so we will preview that. The Hawthorne Hawks had another brutal loss.
Yeah,
So
that dude, 2 games, 5 points between the 2 games.
2 games with the lead in the last minute 20 seconds.
I wasn't going to throw that
last
part
2
in.
minutes, but it's brutal. All right, but the main topic of the show, everything changed yesterday when it finally happened. What I told you it was going to happen. I wasn't worried it wasn't going to happen, but it is now done. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a New York Jet. They have finally come to an agreement. Rodgers, I believe, is flying out to New York tomorrow to get his physical done and go through all that rigmarole to make everything official. So I'll go through the details real quick, and then I just want your thoughts on it as a non-biased participant in all of this. The Packers and Jets basically swapped their first round picks this year. So the Packers move up 2 spots. They go from 15 to 13. Obviously, the Jets move back 2 spots. Packers also get a second round pick this year. It's the 42nd pick, and a 6th round pick this year, which is pick 207. The big one, will be the conditional pick that the Packers get next year. It's a 2nd round pick for now, but as long as Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps during the season, it will become a number 1 or first round pick, which we're all hoping it becomes a first round pick. I think that's one thing the Jets and Packers fans can all agree on, is we hope it's a first round pick. That means the Packers are happy they get the first round picks, and that means we're happy because Rodgers did not die at any point. The Jets, meanwhile, they get Aaron Rodgers. They move back to 2 spots in the pick, and they'll get a 5th round pick. Yes. Look at her all of a sudden just hating on the man. I don't get it. Anyways, before I get into my spiel, sir, your thoughts on the trade.
With that being said, check your message really quick. I saw it sent you a picture from one of our fellow colleagues from our NFL league. That will be him next year after I'll let you share it up on the screen if you want. Hey,
No,
listen,
absolutely not. I will not give this disgusting display any love.
he looks quite young, and
Stop it. Get out of here. I will accept second. If you even, there's zero chance that you can convince me ever that Tua is better than Aaron Rodgers. And if you're thinking Mac Jones, get out. Get out. Absolutely get out. Anyways, your thoughts. Will you put your thoughts in here, please?
I just like everybody picking on you right now. I mean,
no, there's no picking on me right
now. Yeah, we did see him last year.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Don't worry about
it.
It's fine.
Even your other half laughing about it.
I saw him live in person.
You did. It has to have been in the
dark. Multiple times while on the field. That's a very touchy subject, Haley. Concussions trying to get off his back. Serious.
Listen, I think this is it's a good move. I wish things would have gotten taken care of a lot earlier. Well, I know you do too.
It didn't matter. It did not matter. Nothing changes. No, there's no off-season workouts that have been missed. All right, will Aaron Rodgers be in the off-season workouts? We'll see. But nothing has been missed. Nothing changed. It's just now it's finally done. I agree. But go ahead.
I think the big thing now that they have signed him up is where they go with their first pick. I mean, bottom line, you've got to get in there. I think you got to pick up an offensive lineman, whether it's an outside tackle, whether it's a tackle, whether it is a inside a guard, somebody that can protect him and open holes at the same time for Breece Hall. You know, we talked about how well Breece Hall was in this. I think this just adds a little bit more almost flexibility in the play calling that Robert Saleh has. And I think that the playbook goes from I don't want to use the word minuscule, but from a smaller playbook to something that you guys don't have to worry about getting out there and where to go with the pass, where to go with things going on. You've got Garrett Wilson, Hardman, Corey Davis, great trio. I think to throw to, and
you're missing
one. Taylor, I'm drawing a blank. Sorry.
No, you're still missing one.
Who am I missing?
Lazard.
Alan Lazard. There was it. I spit it out.
Remember, we are the New York Packers, sir. We brought in the Packer.
That's right. So, I mean, it opens up the playbook, and I really think this is going to be a huge plus. And I think it actually, I hate to say it, I see New England on the downfall. I see now with this big move, this could be the move that it's going to be New York, Miami in the standings, and I think it's going to be a big thing.
So you just think Buffalo's falling out? Or you're thinking Buffalo falls out?
You know, we've talked about it. I think they are going to be on the downside of it this year. I think they paid him to be a win now thing, and
Absolutely.
How many years
100%.
we can get, how many years can you get out of him win now? And that's where I think this draft changes for the New York Jets is protection.
So here's the deal. For all those people on Twitter that were losing their minds saying that the Green Bay Packers fleeced the New York Jets. Am I surprised that it is a 2 and then a conditional first? Not really. I think that's what we've been saying. This is the compensation we were expecting. The longer it went on, who knows where things were going to move around. I was curious if the Jets may get something back just in case Rodgers only plays 1 year. But in the end, the Jets only care about winning right now. They see their window wide open with how good the team is around the quarterback position, that they are all about winning now. So I don't care who the Packers get with all these picks. As long as the Jets at least contend for a Super Bowl with this move, I'm ecstatic because you know what the Jets would not have done if they didn't make this move? They would not have contended for a Super Bowl. Not with the garbage that we have at quarterback right now. This changes all of it. Right now, the Jets are the third best team in the AFC. I'll still put the Bengals ahead of them. I'll still put the Chiefs ahead of them. I'm on record right now of saying I think the Bills are going to take a step back, but I would accept people putting the Bills ahead of the Jets. That's it. That's the end of the discussion. No one else right now in the AFC is better than the Jets because the Jets have the defense. The Jets had one of the best defenses last year that was super young, only got better. Nothing got worse on that team. They didn't lose big pieces from that defense, did they? The offensive weapons were young and fantastic last year. Breece Hall will be back next year. They added wide receivers to that depth. So the weapons offensively did not get worse, did they? The offensive line was down to third stringers last year. So a lot of those will be back. I have a feeling that 15th pick will be on an offensive lineman. So the O-line will have improved. And now the quarterback is improved. And those that are trying to sit here and tell me, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers isn't the man he used to be. I don't care. He's not Zach Wilson. He's not Mike White. He's not Joe Flacco. So to me, that's all that matters, is he's not the garbage that we had to deal with last year. And on top of that, Aaron Rodgers, what happened? What happened to Aaron Rodgers when Green Bay first started to think about moving on from him and they drafted Jordan Love? What did Aaron Rodgers do the next 2 years? Oh, yeah, he won the MVP. Aaron Rodgers with a chip on his shoulder is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Aaron Rodgers last year did not have that chip on his shoulder. He got lazy and kind of in his own head and kind of that annoying characteristic that we get from him that drives people bonkers, and was too busy. Yeah, and got injured. He injured his hand and was on Pat McAfee far too often. But now, guess what? The Packers were done with him. He came out of his darkness retreat or whatever and has a chip on his shoulder. No, I'm not saying he's going to win the MVP. I won't even predict that he'll win the MVP. But he doesn't have to be. He just has to be decent. And here is why. And Robert, before the show, was making fun of me about all the stats that I've put on our stat sheet. Just out of curiosity, for people that really thought Mike White was great, the QBR last season for the 3 Jets that played quarterback. We won't put Josh Johnson in there because that was no. Mike White was a 37.0. Zach Wilson was a 36.5. And Joe Flacco was a 34.1. They're all in like the 50s and 60s as far as QBR goes last year. Okay? The Jets, with all of that garbage at the quarterback position, what did they do? They started 7-4. They were 5-2 with Breece Hall. He gets hurt. Offensive line completely goes into shambles, and the team fell apart and they lost their last 6 games. But they were 7-4. You had them in the top 5 of your power rankings at one point last year. We both thought they were actually going to make the playoffs with that garbage at quarterback. Okay? So now you have Aaron Rodgers. The Jets had 9 one-score games last year and went 3-6 in those games. All Aaron Rodgers has to do is flip that, and the Jets can make the playoffs. You win 6 of those 9 games instead of just 3 of those 9 games. The Jets scored 10 points or less 5 times last year. I don't think that's going to happen with an Aaron Rodgers-led Jets team, right? How about the fact that the Jets gave up 20 points or less and lost 5 times last year? If Aaron Rodgers just scores 21 points, that's 5 extra wins than we would have had last year. Oh, and the fact that the Jets did not score a touchdown in the last 3 games still irks me. And then everyone goes off about, well, Aaron Rodgers had all this stuff in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers had great defenses in Green Bay. So what is he going to do with the Jets? It's not so fast. Aaron Rodgers has never well, not never, but not since 2010, had a elite defense behind him. According to the expected points defensive metric, which is something that we could spend 2 hours trying to explain, but it's basically a metric that determines a point value based on where drives start and where they end. So it's a point, as it says, and from where you start your drive, you should have an expected amount of points scored from that drive. So it kind of puts an emphasis on where defenses are able to stop teams and get the offense on the field to give them those expected points. The Packers have not had a top 10 defense in expected points defensive metric since 2010 when they were second. What happened that year? Green Bay won the Super Bowl. The Jets last year were fourth in expected defense or expected points defense. So all of this is working out. For those that are going, oh, the Jets are going to win 9 games with Aaron Rodgers. They won 7 with Zach Wilson, Mike White, and Joe Flacco. Stop it. Now, I will joke for 4 months that the Jets are going to the Super Bowl. Do I believe it? I believe they have a chance. But again, I will stand up here with a straight face and tell you they are the third best team in the AFC. And it being the third best, they have a chance. Now, their schedule's tough, and we'll see how things go. But it's the most excited I've ever been. And anyone wants to go out there and go, well, Brett Favre. Brett Favre was 8-3 before he broke down and still played through it, and then the Jets completely imploded. But that season was going just fine. And then injuries messed things up. So I don't want, it's just, nothing is going to take away my happy mood until maybe week 1 when the Jets implode.
Maybe. So I'm not gonna try to rain on it, but I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah.
First of all, first one I ask out of the gate. We know this deal. What was this deal? 3 years? Is that?
He has 2 years left. Yeah.
2 years left. So do you see him staying 2 years in New York?
It would be great. I'd hope they do. And it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. They've been talking about him restructuring with Green Bay before they officially make the deal, which would help Green Bay's cap hit, which may change what the Jets cap hit is as well. I think a lot of this year's salary may come down as a bonus, so it won't hit them cap wise, so they can still make moves. So I think it's fine. And I hope he plays 2 years, but if we only get 1 and we make the playoffs and we even, win a playoff game, it's worth it to me. It's been over a decade since the Jets have been in the playoffs. All right. I'll take anything.
So with that being said, we know what the Packers did years ago, with the point of when he started getting disgruntled and all that goes down.
Yeah.
Packers proved they went out. They thought they were getting his replacement in Jordan Love. Him being that predecessor to Rodgers, and how that relationship worked out. You, sir, I'm going to ask you, how do you feel the relationship is going to be coming down to said Zach Wilson, who's still on the roster, their number 2 guy? How do you see Aaron Rodgers being the mentor or working with Zach Wilson compared to what it was working with Jordan Love?
I don't know how he worked with Jordan Love, but he worked really well with Zach Wilson already. The Packers and Jets did a lot of off-season workouts together and dual practices. And there's a lot of times where Aaron Rodgers was mentoring a rookie Zach Wilson at the time, because LaFleur's were on both sidelines. So they were working together a lot. So it could be interesting for Zach Wilson. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not feeling like the Jets are going to want him out the door to throw Zach Wilson in. So he's not going to get that pressure of getting booted like he did with Jordan Love. But maybe that makes him a little bit more open to try to help Zach Wilson. And can Zach Wilson be saved? Who knows? We will see, hopefully in 2 years, when Aaron Rodgers has done his duty and moved on or continues to play. He could go Tom Brady with us and play 8 more years. Who knows?
And with that being said,
Probably
kind
not,
of that in that same voice, and then this is coming to now, I kind of turn the question towards ownership. Do you see him with them getting him at this age? Can we see the idea of maybe after 2 years that he does a couple of single years and works into maybe a player slash, or not player slash coach, but to end up being a QB coach to maybe get in to
Aaron Rodgers
that
will not
size?
be a coach.
You
I don't
don't
think
think
Aaron
so?
Rodgers will ever be a coach. He'll be an owner somewhere or a part owner. I know he's a part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks right now. I think that's where he will go. I don't think he'll be a coach.
No.
But right now, Jets 6th as far as Super Bowl odds right now, behind the Bengals, Eagles, Bills, 49ers, and Chiefs.
You forgot the Ravens in that.
The Ravens aren't even in the top 10.
No, I know.
Ravens are behind the Lions. It's going to be a weird year next year. One last thing before we get into our mock draft. One thing I talked with Robert Taylor about earlier, and I got his quick opinion on it. We didn't really have a good discussion about it, but the NFL schedule, usually we have a game or two announced by now, at least like the international games. And I know last year they teased us with the first Amazon game or whatever. We have not had any of that, but usually the full schedule comes out a couple weeks after the draft. Now that Aaron Rodgers is on the Jets, I think the Jets are going to get a ton of primetime play, and people are going to get really sick of this team, and it makes me happy. But I ask you, how many primetime games will the Jets get? And I ask that because you look at the schedule. I put down the possible primetime games that they could have, and their schedule is insane. So they get, obviously, anytime you play a divisional opponent, that makes sense that you could throw that as a primetime game. A lot of divisions have that. But they host Kansas City. I mean, Mahomes and Rodgers, that writes itself. Same thing with the Chargers, with Herbert. How about the Eagles? They just went to the Super Bowl. That's a great game. They go to Dallas. It would not shock me at all if that's a Thanksgiving game.
I was just thinking that.
Aaron Rodgers at Dallas for Thanksgiving. The one that I think is almost a lock, now that somebody had brought it up in a different tweet that I saw, and it just made sense. The Jets are at the Giants. Monday night on week 1 lands on September 11th. So I think Jets-Giants, Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers' first game with the Jets. I think that makes sense. And then, of course, you can get Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers as they go to Denver. The Raiders I threw in there, just kind of a thing. But how many primetime games do the Jets get this year?
I think it's going to be maybe 4, and I shot a little bit low. We do know this is the main story there.
0.
He's just poking all day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
That's
cool. He's scared. He's scared. That's not true. He's not.
I
know
think
Robert
4.
Taylor. He's not scared of anything, at least football wise. No, I'm going to say 6. I'm going all in. I think 6 is like the max you can get. I think the Jets and probably the Chiefs will be the 2 teams that get 6 this upcoming year. And again, I mean, one of them will be against each other, I think. And the fact that the Jets got 1 primetime game last year, it was a Thursday night against the Jaguars. So just things are definitely. I do think that Jets Chiefs will be a good one. I had said that could be the first Thursday night game, but it's at New York, so that doesn't make sense. Also, while we're on the topic of schedules, I'm going to hit you with this one real quick.
Okay.
First game, we're not going to do our full prediction, but I just feel like it's going to get announced here soon. Opening night, right? Usually the Super Bowl team is the home team. They're going to play someone else. So it's going to be Kansas City hosting who in week 1? I looked at their schedule. 2 games absolutely stood out to me. Buffalo Bills or a repeat of the Super Bowl and have the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs end last season start this season? What do you think?
That would be if I was making the schedule, that's the way I would go. Why not start the season the way they ended and go right at it? What Philadelphia is going to do to keep their presence in the NFC. I still think they're probably one of the top teams. I would go that way.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor does have a good one with the Dolphins at the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill coming back to Kansas City. I can see that, but I think that'll be a primetime game a bit later on in the year. Eagles Chiefs, I think, is the way to go to start the year. Eagles Chiefs in week 1, Jets Giants in week 1. I want the schedule to come out already. That we have to go through with our bowling league for the schedule. I just want it out. Let's get this going. All right, that's enough Jets talk. Well, Aaron Rodgers talk for this week. So it all happened yesterday. I've been giddy about it for over 24 hours. I was excited for this show.
So everything I'm seeing here, doing a little searching there, everybody's saying around May 11th. So maybe
it's usually like that like 2 Thursdays after the draft. So they give the draft time to breathe, and then they'll throw it out there.
They'll throw a little drop on it on the 9th. We'll celebrate my birthday. We'll celebrate all that and go with there. So
that's what the NFL does the day before Celta. Anyways, all right, let's get into it. Let's get into our NFL mock draft. So we're just going to do the first 10 picks because we don't want to sit here for 3 hours doing all this. We'll also, of course, pick the Jets pick and the Ravens pick because we are homers, and we're going to go that way. We do allow trades in our mock draft, and we do have a couple of trades that have been set up with the way that we have set this up. If you all send that in Hooker, we don't go down to 31, so don't worry. Honestly, I'll bring this back up. I think Hooker goes 31, but not to Kansas City, obviously. I think the Chiefs trade out. I think somebody's going to move up into the end of the first round and get Hooker so they get that 5th year option with him. So I do think Hooker could go 31. It just won't be with Kansas City. All right, let's get into it. Carolina is on the clock. Robert, who do they take?
I think it's kind of a no-brainer in listening what they've been saying.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I forgot this is in Kansas City. It would be horrendous if Kansas City on the very last pick traded out. That's fair. That's fair, Robert. All right, go ahead.
No, that's fine. So, article earlier saw Frank Reich in them. Carolina says they've already got the pick made, and I think they have. They've decided it's going to be Bryce Young. He will be the franchise face of that team, and I think that's going to be a big plus. Wish they would have had a running back there now, but he's now moved on to better fields over in San Francisco.
They got running backs there. They just don't have McCaffrey. But there's running backs in Carolina. But yes, I will agree with you. Bryce Young will be the first pick. He will go to the Panthers. Carolina is in a very weak division, so Bryce Young gets thrown right into the fire as far as trying to find a way to win this division in year 1. I will say this with all of these quarterbacks that we're about to mock onto these teams, just let them settle in and find their footing. And maybe even with Zach Wilson, they fail at first, something happens, they lose their job, and then they can come back and they can make things happen. Just let's not rule out the careers with the way they play in the first 6 games, because nobody is getting like a year off anymore, like we've seen with Patrick Mahomes getting most of his rookie year off. And we saw what it did with him. So will Bryce Young lead his team to the division title? Probably not, but I think it will be a good fit there. Mm-hmm. All right, Houston Texans, sir. They are on the clock.
As much as I think they do need to go ahead and take that second best player on the board, that's gonna be CJ Stroud. I think he goes second. As much as I've thought about back and forth what they were gonna do, whether or not CJ was gonna be the 3rd pick with Arizona, I didn't think so. I knew some things switching around, so I'm gonna say Stroud goes to Houston, and that might be one of the most interesting ones, whether or not Stroud would be a week one starter.
Yeah, this pick was one of the tougher ones for me to even come up with an idea for, because for weeks you're thinking, okay, we're going quarterback, because Houston absolutely needs somebody in that position. However, you start seeing all the rumor mills going on, and it seems like Houston is very down on CJ Stroud, and he is not even in consideration for them, which is why Will Levis all of a sudden has been flying up like the betting odds as far as being picked in the top three, is because all of a sudden CJ Stroud is dropping. I was looking through all the stuff because, again, I was having a really hard time finding somebody for this spot. Yes, Will. This report is Will McDonald. Isn't it Will Anderson? Is that who you're talking about? But to me, one name that I saw a couple of the insiders talk about as far as just hearing inklings of, so I'm going to bite on it, even though like the pre-draft rumor mill is always interesting. But I'm going to go with the edge rusher from Texas Tech, Tyree Wilson, as the first pick for Houston. The Texans like to go out and make these picks that make you kind of shrug your shoulders and go, what? I mean, they're not as bad as New England. But it'll be an interesting pick. I don't think it's going to be CJ Stroud, though. All right. Third pick is the Arizona Cardinals. And we both had the same idea. We just went in a different direction. Where'd you go?
We said this last week, and I said, watch for we talked about which team would move up, and both of us agreed it would be the Las Vegas Raiders. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think I was going to say it, but I had originally McDonald. I thought about it, and as much as I would hope that he wouldn't go here, I think that we go 3 straight quarterbacks, and Anthony Richardson from Florida goes to the black and silver.
I also went with you. I think the Raiders are going to move up. They've been hunting quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. They've been taking all of the quarterbacks out to dinner after every QB day or whatever has been going on in the offseason. Yes, they have Garoppolo, but we know Garoppolo's injury history. Mm-hmm. So I do think the Raiders are going to go all in to try to get one of these quarterbacks. I don't think it's going to be Anthony Richardson, and though I've been hearing of CJ Stroud dropping a lot, which could make this trade not happen. The Raiders could just wait it out. But I'll say the Raiders just say, screw it, we're going for it. Move up to 3, and they'll go take CJ Stroud out of Ohio State. So you have 3 straight quarterbacks going in the first 3 picks. I have 2 of 3. And then kind of surprisingly, we went the same route with the 4th pick with Indianapolis.
You know, we talked about it last week, and you asked me the question, how many quarterbacks did I see going in the first 5 picks? And I think I said, what did I say? 4 in the first 5. And put 4 in a row for me. I think the first 4 come off the board. I think Indianapolis has to do the same thing. They've got to take a quarterback. You know, they do need a corner. They need a wide receiver, but I think the biggest issue is quarterback. And so I think the boy from Kentucky, Will Levis, will go to Indianapolis and be their quarterback.
Yeah, that's another name that I've been hearing as far as that's a location he may land. It seems like Indy is really in on Will Levis from Kentucky. Again, he's been flying up the boards, and the odds have been going insane. You look at some mock drafts from like 3 days ago, and he's going 32nd, like the first pick in the second day, or just maybe up in the 29-30 range again to try to get that 5th-year option. And now you're seeing him in the top 5 all over the place. So something has to be going on for all these mock drafters to mm-hmm. change their tune that much. So I will also go Will Levis, quarterback out of Kentucky with the 4th pick. Then it's the old Seattle Seahawks. And we don't have the Seahawks fans showing up all the time as we do during the regular season. But what do they do with this pick?
For me, they go defense, and they need defense, whether it's a D lineman, if it's the edge rusher. And so for me, Tyree Wilson finally comes off. For me, Texas Tech boy, you look at all the needs They need a corner. They need a D line. They need a linebacker. I think they've got to go defense in their first pick.
Yeah, they need defense. They need all this stuff. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to fall in love with Anthony Richardson. He's not off the board in my mock. Geno Smith, cool. He won the comeback player of the year, even though he didn't come back from anything but not feeling good. Anthony Richardson will be the heir apparent to Geno Smith. He will be able to sit for a year and will be the new quarterback in Seattle in a year or so. And the Seahawks will take him with the 5th overall pick. So then we get to the Detroit Lions at 6. And I will go with the old Will McDonald had a farm, even though his name is Anderson. Will Anderson Jr., edge from Alabama. I do think he is the best defensive player on this board, just from the stuff that I have seen. I have not watched a ton of film. I've definitely not have done as much prep as I've done the last 2 years when we had our live draft or live feed going during the draft. So I've not paid attention as much, but from what I've seen, I think Will Anderson's the best defensive player, and the Lions get a steal at 6.
I'm going to stay with defense, but for me, I think they need a little bit more help on the interior side. So Jalen Carter, even with everything going on, Jalen Carter is going to be that guy in defense from Georgia to shore up that defensive line for the Lions.
No Robert Taylor, no live draft feed this year. We've done the last 2 years. But Robert has to work, and then I picked up a shift as well. So, and then I think, Chase has a track meet right after. So it just kind of, that's the way it worked out. And is that what you're working?
Yeah.
Is Chase's track meet?
I am track meet, and it is Moscow, Sack, and Clarkson. Moscow has close to 160 track athletes or something like that.
Will you do me a favor?
I can always do that.
And keep them in line and get these races going. They had it down at Vollmer Bowl a couple weeks ago, and God, there was some breaks in between races, and I didn't understand why.
Well,
get these kids out there running. Let's go.
Last week, we ran pretty good, and I think they finished up about 7:30. Hearing what Moscow did a couple weeks ago as they were hosting a meet, it was 9 o'clock when they ended. But Moscow has so many athletes. Last week, we ran 22 heats of 100-meter dash. So,
do you know what you do? I'm not a track person, but this is what you do. Put them on both sides. You have 2 straights. Run them both. Let's go. Varsity gets the cool clock, and the other people get the little stopwatch. Just make it happen. Let's go. The amount of times that I watched a main heat go, and then 2 poor kids have to run the same event all by themselves. Yeah. Just come on, people. Anyway.
Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting with that track meet. So I've been told that we are probably going to be about 8 to 8:30 before it's over.
Well, that's all right, because I probably won't get off to about 6. So I'll be able to watch most of Chase's events over there. Let's see. We got through Detroit. It was the Raiders pick at 7. We both said they traded with Arizona. We're both going defense here. I'm going to go with, actually, we just flipped it.
Yes, we did.
I will say Jalen Carter will go to Arizona. You will say Will Anderson will go to Arizona. So we're going to say they go 6-7. It's just in what order they go in. We will see. Atlanta was another really tough pick for me at 8. Thought about giving them the running back. What is it? Bijan? Is it Robertson?
Yeah.
But I don't think he goes this high. So I went with who might be the best cornerback in the draft for the Falcons. Give me Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback out of Oregon.
I think you shared this with Robert Taylor. Is that where you were?
Wow. I didn't even say, you can wait no longer, sir. That's where Gonzalez is going.
You're exactly right. Atlanta, what they needed this year, they needed a cornerback, they needed a D lineman, they needed edge rusher. On the defensive side,
they need a lot.
Yes, And so I'm going to stay with the local boy. I'm going to stay with the guy that played at Georgia. And I'm going to go Nolan Smith. He's a big edge rusher. He is the other big edge guy compared to Will Anderson. I think he is easily the second best edge rusher in this one. And I think he stays home in the state of Georgia.
It's also fair from Robert saying Gonzalez could fit with Detroit
Mm-hmm.
as well. It's definitely a possibility for where they went. I just, with Will Anderson dropping to them, I just couldn't have him go any farther. Interesting one at number 9. Chicago Bears are on the clock. Where do you go?
You have to protect Mr. Fields, and that's the bottom line, I think, with this guy. And again, I went with the idea of a local guy, and I'm going to go from Northwestern, the offensive tackle, Peter Skonorski. I think that is a good fit for that one. Put him on. I think he played both sides of the line. I did some looking. I think he did play some right tackle and left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where he would put him, whether they'd put him on his blind side or whether they'd put him on the lead side. He does have some speed. I do like him in this spot.
That's a good pick. That's who I am taking as well, but not for the Chicago Bears. I'm putting a trade in here because I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to look where they're at in the draft and realize that the Jets need an offensive lineman. The Eagles need an offensive lineman. They're sitting at 10. The Patriots need an offensive lineman. They're sitting at 14. A lot of offensive linemen needed teams are just ahead of them in this draft. They like to move things around. It was really difficult. We didn't mock this far, but I was almost tempted to just say Pittsburgh was going to trade out of the first round and try to build up the picks. I'm going to go the opposite way. I say they trade with Chicago and they take Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. So same player, just different team for us there. So we go to the 10th pick. And like I said, Philadelphia needs an offensive lineman. And no, this is the player I want the Jets to get. Now at 15, I say he goes at 10. Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, is who I have going to the Eagles.
And this is where I finally let Christian Gonzalez go. I think he would be a great fit there in Philadelphia. So I think Paris Johnson is also a great offensive lineman. He's going to do great for whichever team he makes, and he will be an automatic starter. So with both of our picks there, I would go either or on that one.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So those are your top 10. Go ahead.
I'm going to ask you a question. I only had one trade, and I think we talked about it last week. What did we finally decide over under of how many trades do we see in the top, let's just say first round. I think there's at least 2 trades.
There's more than that. There was 9 last year? 7. It was 7, 8, or 9 last year. It was right in that range. There was a bunch last year. Things are wild. I don't think it'll go that wild. I'll say 5 in the first round. I have 2 going in the top 10, and we'll see how things go from there. Obviously, we had a semi-trade with the Jets and the Packers, but that was before the draft, and we will see where things go. Real quick, we will draft for our teams. The Jets now with the 15th pick that they got with this trade with Green Bay. And offensive line is the way they have to go. I do think a few will be off the board by the time they pick now, but I will take Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle from Georgia, as the pick. Oh, we can pick for the Chiefs too. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle for Georgia. That is where I think the Jets will go. I have to go look up this. Go ahead.
I think he slides down. I really hoping Patrick Johnson slides down. I think that would be a great fit for you in protecting Aaron Rodgers and that. So would be a great idea to see such an athletic lineman go and try to protect him. So that's where I would go. I think Paris Johnson slides down a little.
All right, and then what about your team, sir?
It's been all about we've got to get some weapons. We got to get a wide receiver. I think Jordan Addison out of the University of Southern California is going to be where the Ravens end up going here. Very athletic, very tall kid. He can jump. That's the biggest thing, and he's got some outside speed. So I think that's where Addison's really going to help out with this team.
Yeah, I also think wide receiver is a big thing. Like you said, they got Odell Beckham there, but they need more weapons, especially if they want to make Lamar happy.
Mm-hmm.
I went with Zay Flowers, a wide receiver out of Boston College. Robert Taylor jokes about it all the time because the Chiefs had crazy speed at wide receiver, and the NFL is a copycat league, so that's just a big thing. Zay Flowers runs like a 4.4 40. Oh, is that? I'm gonna guess that is exactly where he thinks he should go is the Chiefs, but I'll say Zay Flowers pick 22 to Baltimore. So now Robert Taylor, he's been nice enough to hang out with us throughout this. He wants us to mock his team. And you know what? He did forget about one, so I will give him on his team. The edge, Will McDonald IV from Iowa State. That's where I will predict. That it's just been in Robert Taylor's head. That's where Kansas City will go. I am very much between an edge rusher and a wide receiver for Kansas City. I still believe they're very much in contention of trying to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. What they will have to give up for that will be interesting. That could happen during this draft, but I think they go edge rusher here. Actually, Robert, I'll ask you this. We saw the trade last year for A.J. Brown in the first round, which blew our minds during our live feed, right? I don't know if he's worth a one, but would you be upset if it became the Chiefs pick at 31 and all of a sudden it changed and it was Arizona's pick at 31 because the Chiefs traded the 31st pick for DeAndre Hopkins? That's my question to you. But anyways, I take Will McDonald IV from Iowa State. Did you say who you were taking?
No, not yet. So I've been looking at a website of what they need.
That's fair. I think it's too much too.
Yeah. Looking at what teams need, and I went back, and Kansas City, their major needs is edge rusher, tackle, wide receiver. I've been looking between two different people, and the one that you did say a minute ago, of taking Will McDonald IV out of Iowa State, great edge rusher there. The other one, I'm going to throw a name out there, and it might catch a little bit, but how about getting the guy in Georgia to be the heir apparent to Travis Kelce? How about Darnell Washington? Darnell Washington out of Georgia would be a great pick, I think, to eventually get to that part of taking that spot of Travis Kelce. Washington is known for his blocking ability. I think either one of them would be a great spot.
Oh yeah, Dalton Kincaid. He's from Utah, right? Kincaid. I think I'd seen his name earlier. You had me scrambling when you were talking about heir apparents. I was looking up for who the Georgia quarterback was that would be in this draft.
Oh, Stinnett.
Yeah, I was blanking on his name. I'm like, are you going to give him a quarterback, really?
Dalton, according to Bucky, I'm trying to remember, Bucky Brooks from NFL Network, Dalton Kincaid is projected to go to the Green Bay Packers. He's the 13th pick from Utah.
13th?
Yeah.
He's going to go in the top 13?
That's according to Bucky Brooks. Chris Collinsworth.
The Chiefs hooker. That's awesome. You got to love Chris Collinsworth. Before we wrap up our NFL talk, I'll quickly mention the NFL suspended 5 players for gambling. Detroit players Jameson Williams and Stanley Berryhill will each get 6 games, while Quintez, is it Cephas?
I think that's how you pronounce his name.
And C.J. Moore are suspended indefinitely, while Washington's Shaka Toney is also suspended indefinitely. Stop betting on the NFL, dummies. Or for Jameson Williams, and I'm guessing Stanley Berryhill, stop betting while you're in an NFL facility, you dummy. Also, we bring him up all the time, but Tom Grossi had a fantastic video for NFL players to learn how to gamble while working in the NFL. And it's just step outside. Just step outside the facility, and then you're okay to hit the button. I don't know. Yes, there's going to be a lot of arguments out there that the NFL is sponsored by FanDuel and they're all about gambling these days. But there's a big difference between gambling on your own sport, and they want to make sure that everyone thinks that the referees are in on their team, and we get that the NBA had all of their scandals, and we always think the NFL, the referees have it against us, and you don't want it to also be the referees have it against us, and that player has it against us because he bet money against us, and now he's screwed me out of money so he could win. We just need to hold on to the idea of integrity, please. Yes, no. What are your thoughts on all
No,
of this?
yeah. Well, here's the thing: is eventually, and I believe it has been Las Vegas and a couple other stadiums have betting facilities in. It's eventually going to get to that point. So when are we going to start getting to the point where it has to be written in contracts, or when do we start allowing some kind of minor betting, whether or not they play fantasy football
bet,
or what?
just not in the facility.
Yeah.
And don't bet on the NFL. That's just it. It was 2 simple rules.
Yeah.
Don't bet on our sport, and don't do it here.
Yeah. It's got to something's
simple enough.
Yeah.
All right. This is the R&R Sports Report. You can check us out on the R&R Sports Report Facebook and YouTube pages. Also, normally on LCWR. Right now, obviously, with me having to be away for the baseball game and being an hour late, we just decided to do it from home. We'll be back in the studio and on those airwaves next week. While we have Robert Taylor here, please don't go. We need you for the sports-related draft, and then we will get into the baseball. But I like having the top of the hour being our sports-related draft time. So let's get into that. You won last week with the worst weather games, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it is your turn to pick the topic. Where are we going?
And so again, we've been feeding off our fans, and this one comes from Denny Grubb. Greatest winning streaks in sports history. So could be any sport activity. What is the best winning streak out there?
There's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to choose from. I bounced around a lot, and this legit is one that
this is number one. Yeah.
Who knows what is number one? Usually, this is the difficult thing, that usually when the person that comes up with a topic, oh God, I'm going to change it since Robert Taylor is probably going to be our voter, that I'll do the Patrick Mahomes thing. Usually, the person that comes up with a topic is in trouble because the obvious choice goes away, and then you're playing catch up the rest of the way. Here, I don't feel like I have an advantage at all, because everything is so different and feels different. But I'm going to go with the UCLA Bruins. They won 88 straight games in college. The Bill Walton eras and the John Wooden era of college basketball just absolutely dominated. You look at college basketball now, and it's completely different, especially with the NIL deals and people moving around. We have so many upsets going on. That's why it's been so many years since a team has even gone undefeated. And we saw that with women's basketball for a little bit, with like UConn going on their crazy run. But for this men's team to just blow teams out the way they did, and they changed the way basketball was played at the collegiate level during that time. So give me John Wooden's UCLA Bruins and their 88 straight wins as my first pick.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great pick. That's exactly where I would have went the very first one. long seasons. Yours started March of 67 and lasted till 74. I do have a trivia part to this
Oh boy.
with your question at the end of it here, and so hopefully you can answer. I'm gonna go a realm I didn't think I was gonna go, but I'm gonna go with Rocky Marciano. He retires undefeated, goes 49-0. He was one of those guys I remember growing up
Mayweather did it better. That's not
listening
true.
listening to my father talk about watching him fight and when he was fighting 100% out there. And I remember growing up and hearing these stories from my dad and
Mm-hmm.
dude, unbelievable fighting, what he started early 1900s, right about 1947 when dad was born, to in 56 when he retired. So never really turned down a fight, and so
Mm-hmm.
this guy just took care of business every time he got in the ring. So
I'll give a shout out to Robert Taylor's streak that he put on here, but I did not pick it because I can never say that guy's name. But 29-0 in MMA is ridiculous. Cael Sanderson was also fantastic with 159 straight in wrestling. These are all great streaks. There's so many great streaks out there. This is so difficult. I went with one which, again, I pick because it's never going to be broken with the way that the sport is played now. And that is the Los Angeles Lakers in 91 or the 1971-72 season, winning 33 straight games. How many star players play 33 consecutive games now, let alone try to win? And this is not a Laker team that was straight dominant for years. And this was like what the Warriors were there for a bit. Hold on.
Might as well play
T.
play your sound effect for him.
T, sir. But it wasn't like the Lakers were winning all these championships at this point. This was their first title win as the Los Angeles Lakers. Second to last season for Wilt Chamberlain. And the great thing about this streak, 33 straight wins, 23 of those wins were by double digits. So they weren't just squeaking by. They were crushing teams.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing with that. So that's another great one. I'm going into the college ranks now. I'm going to go back to where we love to hang out, and I'm going to go football, and I'm going to go with the Oklahoma Sooners and what they did, winning 47 straight between 1953 and 1957. Okay.
Sorry. I'll argue this real quick. Yeah, are athletes better today? Yes. They don't play. They don't play anymore. That's it. Go ahead.
I agree. I agree with your statement. Yep. Warrior streak is not more impressive. So, yeah. Give me go back on Oklahoma Sooners. You had some guys on this team that were playing both ways, but had 22 shutouts during the streak. So out of 47 games, they held their opponents to 0 points. The worst part was seeing that during the 1957 season, that they dropped to second because of one team that ended up first, and that was was Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. With that being said, they're the ones that Oklahoma lost to when they were snapped of their 47 games, but also was the last team that beat them starting their streak. So they were bookended by Notre Dame in that one. And with that being said, I'm going to give you the little trivia as I was reading all this. Your 88 win streak for UCLA, who was the team that broke their streak?
No idea. Duke.
Notre
Dame.
Notre Dame. And I found that quite interesting between both of them that Notre Dame, the Ivy School was doing that stuff. So
Eric
Tigger.
over here talking about the Flyers, and I've looked at a lot of streaks, and that one was very impressive. They went 35 straight games without getting beat. There was 10 ties in there, so I kind of avoided there. There was, you know, trying to flip through some of the stuff that I was reading before. The Giants don't lose for 26 straight games. The New York baseball Giants back then. The A's, who were a horrible team, winning 20 straight games. That was a big one. There's a lot. There's high school stuff in there. There's soccer stuff in there.
You didn't take the sailing one. I figured you were going back to the sailing with America stuff.
Sailing is dead to me because it's just over. But I went back to my heart. I went back to my love. And again, we did this draft yesterday after the Aaron Rodgers news. So I don't even care if I lose this because you guys aren't going to make me mad. So I went with the fun one. And will it let me win or will it make me lose? I don't care. The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania is my third pick. It started in 1991, and it was finally snapped in 2014. It's a long time. Mm-hmm. The Undertaker went 21 straight wins at WrestleMania. There are only a handful of people that have wrestled at WrestleMania 21 times. Undertaker's streak will never, ever, ever be matched. And that's why I think the second highest streak ever is like 4.
Yeah, that was a good one. I kind of got a good chuckle out of it when I saw it. So, yeah, one of the greatest, probably the icon of WWE, WWF. All right, so you noticed in the notes.
Yeah, you left it blank because you're cheating.
I left it blank.
You probably are stealing one from these guys.
No, here's the thing. There was 4 of them that I was hard to, and I ended up messaging our buddy Brian Bromling. I said, Brian, I'm down to 4 that I can't decide on. Robert Taylor hit one of them, and that was Cael Sanderson, 159-0 in his
second best wrestling winning streak of all time,
and behind Undertaker. Yeah, he went 39-0 his freshman year. His sophomore, junior, and senior year went 40-0, 4 national titles. I wanted to go that way. I didn't know whether or not there was that. I thought about Richard Petty, I
saw that one too. I thought about
10 straight races where he got the flag in 1967. One of the other ones was Byron Nelson, winning 11 straight golf championships. So that's playing 4 rounds. So that's 44 rounds of golf where you were the best.
Stop dragging this out. Let's go.
I'm taking the Atlanta Braves, 14 straight division titles. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm taking the Atlanta Braves.
It's not even a winning streak. It's
winning the divisional title. That's still a divisional title that they've won 14 straight years.
How many World Series did they win?
That's not a part of that. But the thing I thought about this too, and I kind of agree with Brian with it. The reason why
they didn't win in 94. They didn't win in 94, and they wouldn't have won in 94. You know who would have won in 94? The Montreal Expos. The strike stole the Yankee Expos World Series we all wanted to see. Mattingly would have a ring right now. There you go. But yeah, your streak is snapped right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot of different ones, and I finally decided that was the one I was going to go with. But I think the impressive one.
Pick the worst out of the 4.
I think I probably should have went Cael Sanderson, but it's impressive to watch those. All right. So Robert, Eric.
No, I don't think they played anybody. I saw that streak too.
Long Beach Paulie. Yeah. So it's up to Robert, Eric. Who else is listening? Let us know in the comments who wins this one. It was the greatest winning streaks. Randy takes the 88 wins by UCLA, the Lakers 33 straight wins, and The Undertaker. It's kind of odd for you to go basketball. Just
I couldn't go basketball 3 times in a row. It was feeling dirty. It was feeling dirty.
And then myself, I ended up taking Rocky Marciano's undefeated streak, then Oklahoma, and you don't need your belt. I know that's what you're looking at. I know that's what you're looking for. You're looking for your belt, and I'm gonna go. Oh, what do you mean legitimate? They're all legitimate. You can't say that
your Division 1 was not legitimate at all. Do you know why I won this week?
Because you're the Undertaker.
I'm better than you, and you know it.
And you know what? Just in honor of the fact that I win this week's sports-related draft, and I picked 2 basketball topics, I'm going to play the fun song.
Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it. Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it. Yeah!
All right, there's your basketball coverage on the Arnold Sports Report. All right, let's get into some baseball now. Actually, before we go into baseball, you talked about my championship that I have over here, and it reminded me, have you seen the new WWE World Heavyweight Championship?
Gorgeous belt. I like the look of that belt.
So I was watching, and I was texting live with Harry, our buddy Harry Broadhurst, because one of the rare times I was watching Raw live, and I watched a bit of it. And we both had a good idea that it was going to be this new belt because they're getting ready for the draft and they want the brand split to be a thing again or whatever. And I was worried that they were going to do exactly what they did. So the first time I saw it, I wasn't a fan, but it has sold me since then. So it's the big gold belt, which is what I have from the old WCW days, old NWA days. Now it's just a big WWE logo in the middle of it. It's gorgeous.
Just looking at it, it's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to how that tournament is going to work out. Who's going to end up getting it? So all eyes are going to be on this. All eyes are going to be on the draft.
Belt. It's a very pretty belt.
Draft starting on Friday on SmackDown. It's going to be interesting to see how things turn out with that.
Absolutely. Anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. Now let's get into some baseball. We're going to get there in the first hour, but we went a little long with me gushing about Aaron Rodgers to my team.
Gushing?
I'm not sorry about that at all. Gushing. I'm not sorry. Quick MLB news. Max Scherzer is suspended for 10 days due to sticky stuff. I do get what David Cohen was talking about with the whole alcohol cleaning stuff. But you've got to figure it out before you go back out there on the field. Though, to be fair, Domingo Germán did not figure it out. And still got to pitch. Your formal apology is coming. It is coming in this segment, all right? I did tell Eric something. I had to apologize. But it was an interesting thing on David Cohen on Sunday night where he was showing what happens with alcohol and rosin and all that. Brian Reynolds signs an 8-year deal with Pittsburgh. Very well deserved. I still think he needs to be in New York. Oakland is getting ready to move to Las Vegas. So suck at Oakland and your 3,000 people that show up every week. I'm just going to throw it out here right now. You put in our notes about the Wander Franco catch. And I will apologize shortly to Eric. However, that's not an impressive catch to me. Just like Hunter Renfroe's catch a few weeks ago was not an impressive catch to me. They are both misplayed, talented catches. They both misplayed the ball, and they're just so talented they caught it. But it's not impressive.
Both catches were, they make But that's what they give them paid money to do and be able
No,
to
they get
adapt
paid
and
to
do.
take the correct route to the ball, where he would have just walked underneath the ball and caught it with his glove. He took the wrong route, lost it for a second, and then did this weird ballet craziness move and had it in his wrong hand. He's just
Caught
that
it barehanded.
talented to make up for his mistake. Period. He looked like some of the kids I was calling out there in the high school game, but he just has so much talent, he caught it. And they did not. All right. It's a fun highlight.
Yeah,
But
both
it
of
will
them
not
are.
end up as a greatest catch of all time.
Oh no, I'm not even putting it in the greatest catches. But are those two the two best catches so far
No,
this
that's
year?
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Not
They're the
this-
most entertaining catches. But they're not the best because they both misplayed them completely. To be the best catch, it's an all-out, you did it on purpose to make that catch. Anyways, all right, standout batter of the week. I had a tough time with this because you stole the one I wanted. But how about Masataka Yoshida, the left fielder from the Boston Red Sox? They're off to a decent start to the year. But just the fact he batted straight 500, 10 of 20, had a pair of home runs and 9 RBIs. So I will give love to him while you give love to the real standout batter of the week.
Yeah, and that's going to be Garcia, outfielder for the Texas Rangers. Man, 4 home runs, 2 doubles, 14 RBIs. That's the biggest thing. I find generating the runs, getting them in, just 2 walks out of his, and he only played 5 games. Go figure, out of 5 games out of the week. And so I think that's what they think, and an OPS of 1.558. Great numbers he put up all week long.
All right, those are our standout batters. Now our standout pitcher, and I'm going to give some love to a closer. Josh Hader last year. Do you remember how bad he imploded with Milwaukee? And we just all felt like, all right, his career's done. You know, his arm just doesn't have it anymore. Batters have figured him out. He blew so many saves, looked horrible. His ERA was like 7. And he gets traded to San Diego for nothing because Milwaukee was just done with him. And now here he is trying to turn this Padres season around as they get Fernando Tatis Jr. back last week. 4 save opportunities. He converts all 4 of them, gives up just 1 walk, doesn't allow a hit in those 4 appearances. So it's just cool to see a dominant closer revitalize his career somewhere else. So I'll give him some love here for my standout pitcher this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the main one here in a second, and that's Clayton Kershaw. 2 big starts, at sub 1 ERA, 2 games, 13 innings pitched, gave up just 1 walk. Highly impressive with that one. So I'm gonna go Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, I mean I understand that one as well. Some good standouts there this week. Let's get into the power rankings. Robert, you got to run for a second, so I'll handle mine. Perfect.
Yep.
All right, so I will do my power rankings first. And great, now I get the full screen. So my apology to Eric Watkins and the Tampa Bay Rays can just be full blown. Eric, I'm sorry. I said this for years. We have been doing this show for nearly 3 years now. And for 2 baseball seasons, I would come on here and say, do not sleep on the Tampa Bay Rays, no matter what they look like on paper, no matter what the rest of the division looks like on paper, they are going to find a way. And I did not pick them to make the playoffs. I poo-pooed their start because they weren't playing anybody. And I was defiant as long as I could. And then they go out there and they crush the Chicago White Sox, and they continue to be fantastic at home. Now, they do lose to the Astros today, which snaps their 14-0 home winning streak. So I nearly knocked them down to 27th, but just for losing to Houston, because we absolutely hate that. But this is my formal apology to Eric Watkins and the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm sorry for once again falling for the trap that is Tampa Bay and then not believing in them. What are they? 20-4 right now? Just insane what they are doing. And I don't like it, and it's driving me nuts. But Tampa Bay is my number one team this week in the power rankings. I had Atlanta at 1. I'll drop them down to 2. They do get beat up by Houston last week, but Houston's a very good team. So even though I really hope that they're not. So I'll give the Braves 2. Brewers, to me, were 4. I'll move them up 1 spot to the 3 spot. Toronto was the first team to give the Yankees a series loss, and now it's becoming a trend, apparently. Thanks, Minnesota. But Toronto is the first team to give the Yankees a series loss, so I will move them up 1 spot as well. Yeah, I had them at 5. I moved them up to 4. And in my 5 spot, I'm going to give some love to the Texas Rangers. Why? Because they went out, they spent the money over the last couple of years. They wanted to go out and try to be a contender against the Houston Astros, and they're getting the job done so far. They even took 2 of 3 from Houston earlier this year. Pitching, batting wise, they're doing all sorts of stuff. So I will give them my 5 spot. And big shout outs right now to both the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Baltimore Orioles. I know Denny hasn't shown up yet, asking if Baltimore has won today or what the Baltimore score was. But those 2 were very, very close to getting my 5th spot. What about you?
For me, I'm gonna do kind of the same. I'm gonna keep Tampa Bay in there, 14-0 at home. I mean,
14-1 now, but yeah.
Now they've won tonight but impressive what they are doing there. I'm still swallowing crow with Atlanta. I'm going to keep Atlanta second. I thought they were going to be falling under. I think the best thing with them right now is their run differential. I mean, they're 38 run differential in that part. I'm going to also agree with you. I'm going to keep Milwaukee at the 3. I'm going to move them up 1 spot just because I moved your Yankees down.
Not far enough.
I don't know. They're still playing well. I turned on the TV today and was watching them. They just struggling there at the plate. So they've
kept turned them there. The Yankees do this off and on throughout the year, and it drives me nuts. They just turn into zombies. The beginning of this year, Torres was hitting the ball all over the field, opposite field, pulling the ball, all sorts of stuff. Judge was hitting the ball. Volpe was stealing every base you looked at. Now Volpe is getting a walk and then just standing there at first. And then it's just nobody has the energy. And they're playing like it's August. And, they're 100 games in and they're tired. We're 20 games in. So I don't know. It's frustrating to watch this team because there's a lot of talent on this squad and they're just not showing it.
And then I'm going to keep get the Mets in at number 4, but I'm starting to wonder. You mentioned Baltimore, you mentioned Pittsburgh. How about Minnesota Twins? What they're doing in the Central right now? They're doing quite well.
Correa has really changed things around for that team.
So,
and to think he was supposed to be with San Francisco.
I actually liked their uniforms tonight as they were playing your Yankees.
I've not seen them yet.
Yeah, I enjoyed. There were a nice white colored uniform, but I think we're getting to that place where we're going to start seeing some of these teams really pull away in certain spots.
Yeah, okay, there, and that's why we haven't seen Denny Grubb asking why the Orioles or what the Orioles score is because they lost to Boston today, 8-6. So there you go.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Bradish, I guess, got shelled, and I have him on my fantasy team, so I'm afraid to look. All right, let's get to your NBA and NHL update. I haven't looked at the updated scores today. Let me pull that up real quick. But some interesting series are going on. Robert Taylor did tell me that there was a buzzer beater in the Atlanta-Boston game where the Hawks beat the Celtics 119-117. Boston still holding on to a 3-2 lead there. Other series in the East, Philadelphia swept Brooklyn, so the Nets are gone. 76ers have moved on. Miami leads Milwaukee 3-1. Game 5 is tomorrow, an 8 seed is a game away from knocking out a top seed. That's pretty crazy, even in the NBA where every team makes it. And my New York Knicks are doing their best to try to get me into these playoffs. They lead Cleveland 3-1, and that game 5 is tomorrow. Games going on right now in the West. Denver is trying to close out their series with Minnesota. They're up 3-1 and currently leading 97-96, just inside 4 minutes to go there. And Phoenix trying to close out the Clippers. They lead that series 3-1, but the Clippers have a 71-61 lead. That just started the second half. Lakers over the Grizzlies right now, 3-1. They have game 5 tomorrow, and also game 5 tomorrow, Sacramento and Golden State. It's the only series that's tied at 2, and it's been the best series that I have seen highlights from and watched a little bit of their games too. There's a lot of intensity in those games. It'd be nice to see them go back to Sacramento. Hagen, I do suggest, as a non-NBA fan to another non-NBA fan, if you're free tomorrow night, watch some of this game. I'm not telling you to watch the whole game because I won't. I'm not telling you to watch all of these games because I don't care. Just watch Golden State and Sacramento in Sacramento, and you can see that this is the fun series. And I'm kind of hoping Sacramento wins because that's a fun crowd to get behind. You can tell that the Kings have not been into the playoffs for a long time. It's been great. NHL has been a lot of fun as well. Let's see. Where are we at here? The East. Can I hit the over button? There we go. Carolina was trying to close out the Islanders, but the Islanders survive. New York wins that one 3-2, but Carolina still leads the series 3-2. Other series in the East, Boston leads Carolina 3-1. They have game 5 tomorrow. Toronto leads Tampa Bay 3-1. They have game 5 on Thursday. How about Toronto winning the last 2 games in overtime? And we'll talk about that more in a second. And then the Rangers and New Jersey are tied at 2. Game 5 is on Thursday. All 4 games have been decided by the road team, even though it's not a long road between New Jersey and New York there. In the West, Minnesota and Dallas, their series was tied at 2, but Dallas shut out Minnesota 4-0. So they're now 1 game away. And the Kings and Edmonton were tied at 2 going into today. And right now, Edmonton all over the Kings. They lead 5-2 going into the third period. 3 of those 4 games have gone to overtime. It's not looking like this one will as well. Other West series. How about the Seattle Kraken? There it is.
Release the Kraken!
Find that button. They are tied with Colorado, 2 games apiece. Everyone's saying, oh, you better watch the Kraken now. You're not going to have a lot of time. Well, they may not get through the series, but they've extended the series. So congratulations to them. And Vegas is up 3-1 over Winnipeg. Game 5 is Thursday. Here's the cool thing. Neither of us are huge hockey fans, but I think both of us agreed that a game 7 in an NHL playoff series is very fun to watch, and the stress level is always high, especially when they go into overtime. Well, obviously we haven't got to game 7s yet because the series are still only about halfway through. But how about 10 of the 32 games that were played in these playoffs coming into today? 10 of the 32 games have went to overtime. 2 of those games went to double overtime. So a lot of
crazy
series and a close games going on in the NHL. And I agree. NHL game 7 over an NBA game 7 all day, every day. So there's a lot to watch tomorrow if you are interested in the sports that we're not interested in. Just saying, Sacramento, Golden State, going to be good stuff. Lakers trying to close out the series could be interesting. I'll have to check it on the Knicks, see if they can close things out. Kraken play tomorrow. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. Meanwhile, let's get into some local stuff. It's the final regular season weekend for baseball in the NAIA. And the Warriors still have not clinched a spot in their conference tournament. It's getting dicey and it gets really interesting here. All right. So follow with us. They're 26-12 on the season, 11-9 in conference play. They will take on Central Washington in a non-league game on Wednesday, just a oneer at 3 p.m. And then they have a 4-game set against Bushnell. 2 games on Friday, 2 games on Saturday. Friday starts at 2. Saturday starts at 11 a.m. Brian Danner will have all the calls on 9:50 a.m. KOZE, KOZE.com. Follow it there or lcwarriors.com. So here's how things stand. Top 4 teams make the conference tournament. Oregon Tech has clinched a playoff spot as they split their series with British Columbia, the one that we said was going to determine who was going to host this tournament. British Columbia is 13-7. They're 3 games back. Oregon Tech is done, which makes this really fun. So British Columbia, if they win all 4 games against Corbin, who's not a great team, but has been having a pretty good year. If British Columbia wins all 4 games, then this conference tournament is getting played in Canada, which could make things really interesting. If they go 3-1, then the tiebreakers get stupid, and I don't understand it, but we'll get to it. College of Idaho and LC are both tied in the 3 spot at 11-9. College of Idaho, expect for them to win all 4 games because they take on Eastern Oregon in their final 4. Eastern Oregon is 2-18 in conference play this year. They're just not good. Bushnell is 1 game back of LC, and again, that's LC plays. So the Warriors, you have to believe, have to win at least 2. You don't have this series, you are not making the conference tournament, but you may have to win more because, again, Corbin is at 9-11, 2 games out. They have a tough matchup with British Columbia, but you never know. So I believe 2 is a must. 3 locks you in for LC this weekend. And then it gets goofy with the head-to-head. So say British Columbia wins 3 of 4. Then it goes to your record against third-place teams. And I just said there are 4 different teams that could be third place. Though, with this scenario, Corbin gets knocked out. And with those 3 teams, if it's College of Idaho, the tournament will be played at Oregon Tech. If it's Bushnell, the series will be played at British Columbia. And if it's LC, then it comes down to who's in 4th place because both Oregon Tech and British Columbia took 3 of 4 against the Warriors this year. There will be a test next Tuesday for you, Robert. Just so you know.
I hope I can pass because, yeah, you were exactly right. We went into the last homestand and we talked, not just you and I, but with Denny, with Alicia and Mike up there trying to decide, or Mark, what needed to happen. And the Warriors kind of on that last homestand kind of didn't produce as much happening. That's when those bats were slumping pretty hard. And that's, I think, where this Warrior team kind of fell off a little bit. There's no reason why they couldn't have been a little bit higher up here. But who would have said and would have seen British Columbia this year do what they've done this year?
I thought they were going to be the one team that was going to give LC problems. I was not seeing Oregon Tech. Oregon Tech has been a surprise for me. Though, good news that I was just told by Danner earlier today, Charlie Updegrave should be returning this week. The offense definitely needs him. So we will see. They're still going to host the opening round, but it would just feel dirty to host the opening round and not even make the conference tournament. Other sports for LC, Cascade Conference Tournament. Final round is tomorrow. Day 1 was decent for LC. Day 2, not so much. Jorgen Viken is tied for the individual lead on the men's side, but he had a 4-shot lead after the first round. Struggled a bit here in the second round. The men currently are in 3rd place, which is a bit shocking there, but they are only 12 strokes back as a team. So we will see how they do tomorrow morning. The women are exactly where you would expect. They are in 2nd place in the Cascade Conference as they were 26th basically in the last votes. They were the highest team in the receiving votes category. and British Columbia is the second best team in the country. So British Columbia is running away with this thing. They have the top 3 individuals right now, but the Warriors have all 5 of their golfers in the top 10 and are comfortably in second. They are 36 shots behind British Columbia for first, but they are 37 strokes ahead of Oregon Tech for second. So unless something insane happens, the Warriors will finish second there. Men's tennis was part of that non-affiliated tournament. The unaffiliated group deal. They beat Russ 7-0. They lose to Xavier 4-2. But shout out to Dan Felker and Maxim Matierny, I believe is how you say his name. They upset the number 2 doubles team in the NAIA rankings during that tournament. They won that one 7-6 with a 7-4 tiebreak. And they were also named to the 2023 All NAIA Unaffiliated Group Men's Tennis First Team. It's a mouthful. And Declan Townsend and Cade Edwards were named to the second team. So congratulations to them. Women get ready to go off and participate in their first ever Red River Conference tournament. That is from Thursday to Saturday. Look on lcwarriors.com at some point tomorrow for our preview. You want to hit track real quick? I feel like I've talked for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, Christian Bothwell became the first Warrior in program history to win the conference title in the decathlon with 6,271 points. Justin Cabadroth earned all Cascade Conference status, finishing third with 6,100. And Caleb Moore finishes fifth with 6,000 points. So, the track and field team, unbelievable records of these guys doing. Any of the distance runners, I mean, even the cross country where these athletes are doing both events. So hats off to track and field for LC.
Absolutely. I believe they have the week off, and then they're getting closer and closer to nationals and getting set for all of those. Let's get into some high school sports. And again, this is why we were an hour late. I was covering Lewiston taking on Lakeland. It was a good 4-game set for Lewiston over the last few days. They swept Sandpoint on Saturday 15-9, and then won the second game 11-0. That game may have been one of the more brutal games I've ever had to call. Sandpoint just ran out of pitching, and Lewiston in, I believe, the 3rd inning, it might have been the 4th, scored 7 runs on a hit. 1 hit. And that 1 hit was early on in the inning after back-to-back walks. A player laid down a bunt to try to give himself up, and it was too beautiful. It ended up being an infield single. It just stayed right on the third baseline. One of the best bunts I've seen in high school, college, anything. It was beautiful. That was the 1 hit in the entire inning, and the Bengals scored 7 runs. They won the second game 11-0 on 2 hits. That was a long game to call. Today they took on Lakeland, another 4A squad. They win the first game 6-3. They used a 4-run 4th inning to jump away in that one, and then a 7-run 4th inning in game number 2 to 10-run rule Lakeland 16-4. Again, Lakeland kind of ran out of pitchers. They threw 3 pitchers late in that game that had not even pitched the whole year as they tried to see what they have getting in ready for their district tournament. Lewiston took advantage. They had more hits this time than just 1, but they scored multiple runs in all 4 innings they came to the plate. So it was nice to see the bats going. They in the regular season, by the time we end next week's show, hopefully, as they will travel to Coeur d'Alene on Saturday and then travel to Post Falls in a huge matchup a week from today. That will basically determine who will be the 3 seed and who will be the 4 seed. And that has a lot of implications to it down the road. Softball, I know they won the first game, or at least were winning the first game. I have not seen the results. I'll try to look those up real quick. They did sweep Sandpoint, so they got themselves back over 500. They're in contention, which is good for their first year head coach. And same thing. They finish their regular season at Coeur d'Alene on Saturday and at Post Falls on Tuesday.
Yeah, for the Bantams, let's talk about the baseball team. They were ranked this past week number 2 in the 2A, and they were undefeated. Had a little bit of a rough outing to start things off in the doubleheader on Wednesday. They lost their first game of the season, 5-4 to Shadle Park. It was tied going into the top of the 7th, and then Shadle Park scores 1 in the top of the 7th to pull out the win. Bantams come back with a huge game in the next one, go 5-2. Hayden Line tosses 6 scoreless innings after the Bantams give up 2 runs in the first inning. So split with Shadle Park, and then and that one. Jacob Caldwell threw a big day, 3 RBIs in that one. Then they take on East Valley on Saturday this past week. And let me just say, another crushing week, weekend to East Valley. Ended up winning 12-5 in 5 innings, and then 20-3 in game 2. Hayden Line, friend of
our, a few of those things in the show just as
Sorry.
Had a big,
go for it.
Had a big, huge inning. Ended up hitting a grand slam. Put up some huge numbers this past week. Bad part, this crew plays Rogers, and we know how Rogers is, sir. They play tomorrow at home against Rogers, 4 p.m. at Adams Field. If you're not doing anything early tomorrow afternoon, go watch.
Get there early. It'll be over pretty quick.
It'll be there quick. Yeah, if it's not over by 4:30, it will be quickly. And then they've got a doubleheader on Saturday against West Valley before they start league play or district play in that one. Girls have a game tonight. They played Pullman. Still haven't seen a score, and they ended up winning both games on against the Greyhounds last Thursday. So big things happening for the girls softball team. They are right now leading the GSL in girls softball. So lots of things happening for both ball clubs.
All right, we're setting something up.
Yep.
For our next topic, the Clearwater Combat is this weekend. You and I are both going. It'll be my first live MMA event. Very excited. I texted Austin earlier today and said, I know you're a busy man, so I know you won't be able to hop on the show at a random time, but I want to get some thoughts from you and I would be able to share. And he said, absolutely. And then he never did. But on his Facebook, he just posted this 4-minute video that basically was about, it says, take a deeper look into this amazing fight card we have Saturday night. It's a 4-minute video. Hopefully he has no problem with me playing this on our show. I've not seen it yet.
I watched it about 5 o'clock today. So
okay.
It is a good video.
So I'm going to post it because we want to promote Austin Arnett and his whole crew. They have been very, very kind to us. We've had several of the fighters on the show. Hopefully we'll have a fighter or two on after these events to get their thoughts on their fights. But this is Austin Arnett's video that he posted today.
And tell me just what it means to be putting on your own events now. I feel like you've had such a long career as a fighter. You know, you've experienced everything, and now I love this sport so much because it's like you pass it down. You know, you pay it forward to the next generation, and it seems like that's what you're doing at this point.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's awesome. You know, my dad started this event in 2008. Clearwater Combat. Used to call it Thunder and Lightning, but now it's called Clearwater Combat. He started 2008. He put on like 30 shows probably in that time frame. And then when he passed away, I knew it was something I had to carry on because he built something up that's so great. And he's built so much talent here in this valley. And I had to keep that going, and then also bringing in talent from other places and giving guys in Spokane and Portland, Oregon, and Seattle. We got guys coming from all over the place to fight on this card. And it's just give them an opportunity to showcase their skills and build up their experience, and then hopefully one day, you know, make it to the UFC. And so giving back to that next generation is very important, I think.
What's something that you've learned being a promoter? I feel like, you know, you go through your career as a fighter and maybe it doesn't set you up to really know how to promote, put on a show, and talk to venues and casinos and all that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work behind the scenes. There's so much that goes into an event that you don't really realize when you're going as a fan or as a fighter. All the little things that got to be taken care of to make sure the show runs smooth. I mean, stuff as simple as making sure there's tape and gauze, and you got the red tape and the blue tape. Little things like that. And there's a million of those things that you have to make sure are buttoned up and taken care of to run a good professional show. If you forget a few of those things, then the show just is clunky. It doesn't run smooth. It isn't a good product for the fans. They don't have a good time. The fighters don't have a good experience. So one thing as being a fighter first is making the experience the best for the fighters. So having them as professional as we can make it for them is really important to me. I want them to feel like they're fighting on a big event, big show, and help prepare them for the future, hopefully when they are fighting in the UFC and whatnot. So taking care of those little things, making sure the fighters are getting treated the way that they deserve. They're the ones putting it on the line and fighting. So making sure we're taking care of them as best as we can is something that I've learned is really important.
Talk to me about that fight, like these 3 title fights on one card.
Yeah.
It seems like this might be like the biggest event that you've put on as a promoter.
By far the biggest one. So, we got tons of title fights in the amateur ranks, and then 4 pro fights. So we've always done 3 pro fights. So we upped it to 4 this time, and we'll be doing that going forward as 4 pro fights with a 6-fight amateur undercard. And so it's pretty exciting to be able to give that much talent to the Valley here. The fans are in for a treat, man. I mean, they get 4 professional high-level fights. All of them are evenly matched. Either one of the guys can win all those fights. Expect high-level MMA, man. From the amateurs to the pros, these are the best amateurs fighting each other. We got guys from Sick Jitsu fighting guys from here at Arnett's Martial Arts America, 2 of the better gyms around going against each other. Jerry versus Melvin. That's going to be an unbelievable fight. You got Dimitri Morales moving up a weight class, going to 145. Opponent pulled out. Kenny Madruga is going up. That's going to be a great fight, too. Another title right there. And then you get to the amateurs, the professional fights. Drake Randall, James Hyder. It's going to be an awesome fight. Drake's second pro fight. You got Brian McIlroy versus Fajon Rollins. That fight is going to be crazy. These are 2 really, really good strikers that are going to throw down and put on an amazing main event. You got heavyweights. Who doesn't love a big slobber knocker with the heavyweights? Dave Pierce and Johnny Burlington. Johnny Burlington coming off one of the biggest upsets on our promotion's history, beating Jared Fisher in the last show, taking on Dave Pearson here. Just a great fight right there. And then Phil Shriver, the other pro fight, versus Damon Wood. Damon Wood's from the old Team Quest days, man. He's been around Portland MMA for a long time. Phil Shriver's been training with us for 10, 12, 15 years. I don't even know how long at this point. These guys are going to put on a show, and they're going to go have fun too. It's just an awesome card, man. You don't want to miss it. Tickets are almost gone. I think there's maybe like 100 general admission left, if that. So if you're going to go, get the tickets now because they're almost gone.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. If you have not got your tickets yet, you better be doing it quick. This is going to be, I think my 6th fight that I'll be attending. So I'm excited more to see you and Haley's reaction to how some of these guys take center stage and listening to all the fans around.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see the fights live. Obviously, it's something I've definitely wanted to go to, but usually, working in a casino, Saturdays are not usually nights that I get off, and then working at the Tribune, it made things difficult as well. So finally have myself set up in a situation where I'm able to go to this. Very, very pumped. It also helps a lot that I've gotten to know Brian McElroy a little bit. I was able to do a story for him on the Tribune. Him and I have talked many times during like cross-country events and such. We've had Dimitri on the show several times. So I have guys in there that I know and I'll be able to root for just on a personal level. Very excited to see what they are able to do. And I've been able to talk to Austin over the last year or so, both for our show and for when I was working at the Tribune doing stuff, and just knowing how hard that man works to put this stuff on and what he has done with his whole company. And it's so fun to be see his Facebook or like the Arnett martial arts website with like the little kids fighting. Can we please go into one of those classes for our 600 followers. They'll still kick our butts, but maybe it won't hurt as bad. But it's just very, very cool what he's been able to do with martial arts in this valley, and very, very cool to see what we're going to get this Saturday. Like you said, this card is stacked. Just seeing some of those guys in action is going to be great.
And like you said, and he said it in the video, getting people coming from Portland, Seattle area is huge. I attended the one last Thursday in Worley, up at the casino up there, and they had people from Oceanside, California. Literally, they had 4 guys come up from Oceanside just to fight. So the area is getting known for the events. It's just going to keep growing.
Absolutely. So that is Saturday. Is it 7?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
So,
I know, because I get off at 6. So it's going to work out great. We will have a recap of all of that on next episode, and maybe we can try to talk one of the fighters into coming in and talking afterwards. We'll see how they feel after these fights. And again, we'll be in studio at least, so maybe we'll get it to work out, though. Last time we were there, only 2 microphones work. So I've been very dodgy about doing interviews lately. So we'll see if things have gotten fixed at the studio yet or not. So there you go. Clearwater Combat this Saturday. We'll let you know how everything went on next episode. Other sports that don't get enough airtime, PBA has just had a ridiculous amount of events with the World Series of Bowling. And I'm just going to say this. EJ Tackett is a bad, bad man.
Yeah, he had such a tournament on all 3 of the patterns, then do Bull on the Earl. Anthony here for the finals World Series, qualified first and ended up coming away with his 5th major tournament, the 2nd major of the year. Is he now surpassing Belmo, do we think?
Of all time? No.
No, not of all time, but are we starting to see the changing of the guard right now?
Not really. I think Belmo's up there as well. Just what the EJ's run right now is, it's Belmo levels, where he is always on the show. He is always in contention. I don't know how many times that I see a picture of, here are your top 5 qualifiers, and EJ just standing there every time. Belmo lately has kind of had to work his way up from, he's not qualifying as well at the beginning and working his way up there. I still think if you make me pick one bowler to win a best of 7 series against any other bowler, I'm taking Belmo. The Tackett is definitely getting up there, but we see these bowlers get really hot for a while and then fall off. Belmo doesn't. Simonson was what looked like he may be the best bowler going. He's struggled as of late. He's still making shows. It was good to see Buttriff finally get a win after a couple of years of not being able to get a victory, after looking like he was the next big thing. So it's kind of like what Tiger Woods was going through, where you're just a GOAT and we're just trying to find the next GOAT. But in bowling's case, they're winning a lot, and EJ Tackett is winning a lot right now.
All right, and I'm going to throw out the other name that I know you're probably trying to stay away from, Santu, but Santu Tavanainen, it was the last year's Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he
made 3 shows.
Like his style. He made 3 shows. He's a great bowler. I'm not a big fan of his style, but I will say he could continue to improve. And yes, I will never be able to pronounce that guy's name. PBA Players Championship starts April 30th, goes through May 14th. All right. Let's get to it.
Okay.
Aussie Rules Football. Congratulations. Geelong is back. They're winning games. They crushed Sydney in the rematch of last year's grand final, nearly won by 100. Western looked good. They beat Fremantle 118-69. And if you would just turn off the Hawthorn game with 2 minutes to go, Hawthorn would be 3-2 right now. Unfortunately, they're 1-5. How do you lose the exact same horrible way back-to-back weeks?
And I said it just prior, 5 points in
Yeah.
2 games, and both of them, like you said, within the last 2 minutes of both of those games.
Inside the final 2 minutes. Last week, they kick what looks like the game-winning goal, and a defender reaches back to barely touch it. That was sickening. And here, once again, they have many opportunities to get it inside 50 and just couldn't hold on to the ball. It's disappointing. Hawthorne's getting closer and closer to getting this wooden spoon, even though we're only 6 weeks in, or at least North Melbourne is hanging out with us. We'll see how things go. And to top it all off, Hawthorne plays Eric's Western Bulldogs next week, Friday, at a decent time of 11:35 p.m. Pacific time, but not on TV. So I'll find a different way to watch it. You have a good time too at 8:10 on Saturday against Essendon. That should be a good game, 4 versus 9. We'll see how things go.
You and I will be at the fight, so I
Yep.
mean, I have to watch it a different
Watch
way.
the
Also.
highlights.
Yep.
So, what happened in golf? And not disc golf, not that golf.
Well, they just wrapped up with the Zurich Classic down in New Orleans. Davis Riley and Nick Hardy each come away with their first win. I love this tournament format. It is a doubles tournament. They do an alternate ball. They play a best ball. They ended up breaking the record. They shot 30 under. Yes, I said that right. 30 under for the tournament. They were not even leading in this one. They come back the last 6 holes, 4 birdies, 17. They hit a 33-footer, just barely off the edge of the fringe, drop it down for the 2-stroke win. So hats off to both of those guys coming away with their first win. Joel Damon, tied for 11th with Denny McCarthy. And so good showing for both of those guys. Joel will not be attending the next one. The next one tournament is the Mexico Open this weekend, where defending champion John Rahm will be. He took last week off, so he'll be there defending his title. But no Joel this week in Mexico.
Yeah. And in NASCAR, they had Talladega. I thought the race. I watched a good amount of this race, the main race. We won't get into like the trucks and stuff, but that was a good race. It was a pretty clean race for the most part. Couple small wrecks here and there, and then as you expect, as the race comes down to the nitty gritty, people start gambling, and things just don't go right. We get a bunch of wrecks. As you put in the notes, they had to change a lot of positioning hours after the race was done because with the wreck right at the end, it was difficult to figure out who was in what place with cars all over the track with all of the wrecks. None really of any significance, but Kyle Busch sneaks away with the victory after the 2 leaders wrecked each other, and he was able to sneak by and not get tagged through all of that. But I thought it was a pretty good race, especially after seeing the I always forget what is it, the Nationwide Series now? What do they call themselves? The secondary
Xfinity.
series. Is it Xfinity? They change it all the time on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget. But they had a crazy wreck in that one. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but one driver goes down, hits the inside wall extremely hard while the other one's tumbling all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sick wreck in this one. Well, Kyle Larson luckily got hit on the passenger side. But I don't know if you saw that, but his roll cage broke. He got hit so hard. It was gross. Did you get to watch any of this?
I did not get to watch any of this. I did watch, I do know the one wreck that you were talking about in the Xfinity one. It was a nasty roll in that wreck. So
here, hold on. I'll share it. This was Kyle Larson's car. You can see the roll cage just completely broke up here. If he would have been hit on the driver's side, we could be talking about a lot of serious problems. So he got really lucky there.
Yeah, not good. Not good at all.
Yeah, but Dover is next week, and I really like Dover. The Monster Mile, they drive on pavement. It's a really quick track. So we will see how that one goes. Mm-hmm. But, sir, we've made it. 2 more hours are in the book. And next week is already jam-packed and nothing's happened yet. Next week, we will recap the NFL draft. We will recap Clearwater Combat. By then, we should basically know what Idaho district tournaments will look like, at least for Lewis, and they will be just finishing up with Post Falls. As Ron, we'll have another week of baseball, more golf, more NASCAR. LC, we will know if they will be in the conference tournament by then. Yeah, all sorts of stuff already lined up for next week. So we could basically get half our show notes done now.
Yeah, there you
There you
go.
go. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for our 131st edition of the R&R Sports Report, where I have begun the greatest winning streak in sports history. It's at 1, but that's how you begin the greatest winning streak in history. See you next week, where I get that winning streak to 2. But until then, that's Robert. I'm Randy. This is the R&R Sports Report, and we